Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Natalie Dessay Mad Scenes, which was released on October 19, 2009. The conductors were Andrew Davis, Evelino Pidot, Patrick Fournier, and Michel Plasson, and accompanying Natalie Dessay were the baritones Ludovic Desier and Franck Ferrari, and the basses Nicolas Cavalier and Matthew Rose. In this particular album, Natalie Dessay performed opera arias composed by Gaetano Donizetti, Vincenzo Bellini, Ambroise Thomas, Giacomo Meyerbeer, and Leonard Bernstein. I first encountered Natalie Dessay only through her name when I was only 10 years old. It wasn't until I was 13 where I started listening to a recording of her singing The Queen of the Night from Mozart's Die Zauberflöte that I start appreciating her not only as a singer, but also as an overall artist. Much like a lot of lyric coloratura sopranos, Natalie Dessay had her beginnings singing all of these high-flying, stratospheric roles like Olympia, Sabinetta, Blonde, Ophelia, the Queen of the Night, and many other roles suitable to her voice, which manages to reach a high A flat above the soprano high C. And much later in her career, she started singing a lot more lyrical roles like Lucia Ashton, Violetta Valéry, and before she retired from opera, Antonia from Le Conte of Man and Manon from Massenet's Manon. There were also roles that she only sang for one time, and those were Constanze from Die Entführung aus dem Serail, Musetta from La Bohème, and Pamina from Die Zauberflöte. And nowadays, she specializes in a lot of musical theater, crossover music, and even acting. The very first time I encountered this album was when I graduated high school, and that was in 2011, and I certainly knew that this was going to be something that was going to be a wonderful experience, and it certainly was. This was a compilation album of Natalie Dessay performing all of these different mad scenes from the many albums that she's recorded, from the French version of Lucia delle Murmure and even the Italian version of that same opera, to Vincenzo Bellini's I Puritani, to Ambroise Thomas' Hamlet, to Giacomo Meyerbeer's Dinora, and even Leonard Bernstein's Candide, in which she also sang Cunegonde's aria Glitter and Be Gay. What I've noticed about this album is that it starts and ends with two versions of Lucia's Mad Scene. The first one starts off with the French version, and the final one ends with the Italian version. The French version kept it at the original key of F, while the Italian version kept it at the sort of standard perform version, which I found very interesting because I was able to see two sides of Lucia that Natalie Dessay was able to bring out. And the similarities between these two is that we see a young woman who is in deep anger and deep anguish of the society around her. She's in deep pain, and the only way she wants to get out of this pain is by going loopy, and that is through basically murdering her new husband, Arturo, and she just wants to be away from all of reality so that she could just escape to her own little world. And that's what this album seems to present. We have all these young heroines who kind of feel trapped in the real world and want to escape into the unknown and to a better place in their own minds, even though they're on the verge of insanity. And also, they have their own sets of pain in which they have to cope with. And that's what made this album really stand out so well. Not only do we get the likes of both Lucia Ashton's in the French version and in the Italian version, but also Elvira Valton in her aria, Qui la voce sua soave, which then leads up to the cabaletta Vien di letto in ciel la luna, which I thought that Madame Dessay sang very well, and it makes me wonder why she didn't even pursue this role as well, as the only Bellini role she ever did was Amina from La Sonnambula. Granted, she also recorded Giulietta's aria from I Capuletti e Montecchi, which is O Quante Volte, and it also made me wonder why on earth did she not perform that role as well. But I digress. She was able to give a very fine reading of Elvira's yearning and that youthful tone which she still managed to maintain made her shine brilliantly. Equally as brilliant was her mad scene in Ambroise Thomas's Omelette, in which she was able to sing Ophelia's lines so delicately, and it was just a very wonderful experience just listening to someone as fine and beautiful as Natalie Dessay, just really giving those lines a sense of eeriness, but at the same time that ethereal quality. But the absolute standout in this album was without a doubt Glitter and Be Gay, in which Natalie Dessay managed to go full force with all the high notes, and she definitely had a lot of fun with this particular showpiece. And I can definitely tell that there was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy just pouring out of her, and it's really evidenced in the way she was able to sing Glitter and Be Gay. She managed to start off rather lightly and a little bit more reserved, but as the tempo speeds up, she speeds up along with it, and it is marvelous. Ombre Légère was also a wonderful showpiece for her as well. Also helped with the fact that she was able to sing the high A flat above the soprano high C just so wonderfully. It made me had goosebumps. And I really love the fact that the album ended with the mad scene from the Italian version of Lucia della Marmor, Il dolce suono mi cobeto sua voce. And I thought that she was able to put in a lot of beauty, a lot of really wonderful moments with this particular mad scene. And the fact that they also used the glass harmonica is a major plus. So there was no doubt that throughout the years, Natalie Dessay managed to be a very fine performer all the way through. Not to mention her co-stars were equally outstanding. In the French version of Lucia de la Marmor, we had Ludovic Tessier and Nicole Cavalier singing the roles of Henri and Raymond. Ludovic Tessier has a very fine and luscious quality to his voice. It had that superb Cavalier baritone timbre, and it was noble, it was quite youthful, round, rich, and elegant, and he managed to embody that role to a T. Nicolas Cavalier's Raymond was smooth sounding and lush. It has that plush sound while at the same time being very noble, and he was just an overall fine vocalist. And not to mention, Ludovic Tessier and Nicolas Cavalier had really superb voices when they blended well together. And on top of that, we even had Franck Ferrari, who sang Enrico and Ricardo, and Matthew Rose, who sang Raimondo and Giorgio. With Franck Ferrari, his voice is quite rougher in comparison to Ludovic Tessier. His voice is a lot more dramatic, it's rounder, it's richer, and it has that more masculine sound. And with Matthew Rose, his voice does sound a bit rougher than Cavalier's, but it still has that plushness and nobility which I love in a lot of basso cantantes. And all the four conductors, Evelyn Pidot, Patrick Fournier, Michel Crasson, and Andrew Davis did superbly. The standout out of all of these four conductors was without a doubt Andrew Davis, as he managed to give a lot of energy, exuberance, and a lot of flair to Glitter and Be Gay. With Patrick Fournier and Michel Crasson, they managed to add in a good amount of pristine musicianship in the way they led the orchestra and chorus. And with Evelyn Pidot, he was able to put in a lot of flair. So all of these four conductors did magnificently in their own special ways. So overall, I would highly recommend Natalie Dessay Mad Scenes if you are a hardcore fan of Natalie Dessay or if you just love Mad Scenes in general. This particular album will not leave you disappointed. I give Natalie Dessay Mad Scenes a well-deserved score of 4.5 out of 5 stars. Even though it only ran for an hour and 19 minutes, this is still a very solid package if you are a great fan of coloratura singing or mad scenes or just great music in general, then I'm sure you will definitely have a blast with Natalie Dessay Mad Scenes. And for those of you who heard this particular album, what did you think of it? Did you feel like Natalie Dessay was very much a great singer from beginning to end? Did you feel like there was another singer who stole Natalie Dessay's spotlight, whether it be Franck Ferrari, Nicolas Cavalier, Matthew Rose, or Ludovic Desier? Or was there something that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in much later for my review of Gioacchino Rossini's La Pietra del Paragone, which was shown at the Adriatic Arena. So until then, good night everybody.